Court documents from the U.S. Department of Justice appear to tie former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort to a Ukrainian associate of Russian mobsters. The documents were filed this week in a case involving Dmytro Firtash. The headline from NBC News reads, DOJ, ex-Manafort associate Firtash is top-tier comrade of Russian mobsters. The article goes on to say, quote, the Department of Justice has identified a former business associate of ex-Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort as an upper echelon associate of Russian organized crime. Let's get into it with our legal panel. John Lauro is a former federal prosecutor, a criminal defense attorney, and a white-collar and civil trial attorney. Wendy Patrick is a veteran prosecutor and former trial attorney. Thanks to both of you for being here. So John, is Paul Manafort in legal trouble here, or would you classify this, as the president might, fake news?
This is where a witch hunt can become a witch trial. I mean, the reality is this guy had discussions with Manafort many years ago about refurbishing the Drake Hotel, an iconic hotel in New York. Nothing ever came of it. They never did business together. They never exchanged any money. It's a big zero. And now prosecutors in Chicago are saying, well, maybe this guy has some contact with organized crime. He's not charged with that. They've never proven it. Right now, it's just nothing, just a lot of fluff. And I prosecuted racketeering cases. There's nothing here. And to suggest that Paul Manafort has any jeopardy, just ridiculous.
To give some people who aren't familiar with New York a touchstone here, Wendy, the Drake Hotel was torn down in 2011. These two guys were talking about buying it, but those discussions apparently never went anywhere. Does that mean that Paul Manafort is an associate of this guy?
Well, John, you're asking the right question, because is he an associate or an accomplice? In other words, were they going to cooperate, collaborate, or is this some kind of a conspiracy? You know, the headline you read earlier, you actually read two good headlines. Those sound very ominous. But headlines don't always reflect the history between two people. And that's exactly what Manafort would be saying is true here. And, you know, Manafort has just been pummeled in the news media, in the court of public opinion, because remember, we are looking at all of this while in the throes of a Russian collusion investigation by Special Counsel Mueller. So everything we report takes on this ominous tone that probably wouldn't be there as much otherwise. So it's just one of the things they're going to be looking at is this just a business partnership that never was, or is it actually reflective of something much deeper and ominous?
Worth pointing out that Firtash is not Russian. He's a Ukrainian, and the so-called, well, the organized crime that he is alleged to be involved. Well, let me ask you, John. You're the lawyer. Is the accusation against him, is it tantamount to being in organized crime?
No. What happened is he's being charged with bribing public officials in the country of India, okay? He's not even being charged with anything relating to organized crime. His defense lawyers have said this has nothing to do with the United States, and the government responded and said, well, we think he's a member of the Russian organized crime group. But there's no proof, and it has nothing to do with Manafort. This is an ominous turn when the media is now suggesting organized crime ties when none exist. I mean, it's incredibly unfair for Manafort to be portrayed in the media as having some connections to organized crime when there's nothing there and when it's never really been alleged in any government filing.
So this is guilt, Wendy, by association, if you will?
I would say Manafort would argue he's not guilty by association, because many of us know people that, you know, you would never have thought were involved in anything, and you find out after the fact they had these ties. That does not equate to the level of knowledge that would be required to proceed criminally. And that's what prosecutors would look at. Not does it happen to be that somebody's got these ties that are shady, or in this case, looks like they're a lot worse than that. But what did Manafort know? What does that have to do with him? That's what he would be arguing. So we are at such a preliminary stage to say that he's guilty by association.
So, John, knowing what you know about how the Justice Department works, does this case go forward?
Against Manafort, there's nothing there with respect to this. Now, they're going to try their best to prosecute that guy for unrelated charges, but it has no connection to Paul Manafort, and it really shouldn't be portrayed that way. It's terribly unfair to him.
Just something to keep in mind, I guess, when you read the headlines. John Lauro, Wendy Patrick, thank you both.